Ihr Lieben, ich weiß, wir erzählen euch die ganze Woche, es geht um Kreativität, um große kreative Ideen und ganz viele sitzen zu Hause und sagen, meine Herren, das Ding muss am Ende sich aber auch lohnen. Ich muss das Geld wieder zurückverdienen. Eine kreative Idee muss für mich auch einen Effekt haben und zwar den Effekt, den ich eingebucht habe. Wenn es einen Menschen hier in Cannes gibt, der ganz genau weiß, warum die beiden Dinge nicht getrennt voneinander gehen, sondern zusammen, dann ist es Harjot Singh. Ihr Lieben, schaut es euch an. Es ist wieder mal mind-blowing. Harjot, it's the end of the week, full week packed with creativity. And I'm so thankful that you're here because if there is someone in the industry fighting for creativity and effectiveness, it's you in person. I saw you last year here as the Jurypräsident. We will talk about that one a little bit later. But to start off, when was your first experience that creativity always has an effect on the ROI of a campaign?
You know, it's such a good question because I don't think I can isolate it to one particular incident. But from the minute I understood what it means, I began to recognize it. Let me explain. It's such a big word, creativity. It gets used in all sorts of ways in the industry. And sometimes you just have to go back to the fundamentals and understand, what is it? What does it really mean? And many years ago, I kind of was coming to Cannes. I've been coming here since 2006. That was my first year.
Ooh, longer than Busuma St. John.
Well, yeah, no, she's amazing. But that was the first year I came. And what I realized was one time I said, what does it really mean? What do the experts say about creativity? And you realize there are two things. One thing is, for something to be genuinely regarded as creative, it has to have an end goal. Mm-hmm. It has to have a utility. It has to have an impact.
Yeah.
So the impact is very much a condition, a fundamental condition upon which creativity legitimizes itself as creativity. Mm-hmm. Without that, it is just artistic expression,
Yeah.
And this is not an art show.
Yeah.
So, it's a festival of creativity. And I said that in my Jurypräsident speech last year as well, that a festival of creativity is a festival of effectiveness because one doesn't exist without the other. So the minute I understood that, I began to recognize it in everything, not just in our work, but also in creative solutions we see around the world, on whether it's a creative way to reduce wait times in public healthcare, or whether it's creative ways to reduce traffic at peak hours, or whether it's creative ways to get people to eat more vegetables, or things like that, to very much squarely in our own industry about creative ways to get people to buy more things, So every single time you understand the lens upon and you understand what creativity really means, you start recognizing it in the work. So there isn't a first time, but I think it would have been maybe in 2008 or 9, maybe a couple of years after coming here, where I just got really curious about what does it really mean and what needs to be fundamental for something to be considered as, oh, that's creative. It has to solve something. It has to have an effect. It has to have an impact. It needs to have a point, end, a goal, an objective against which it's crafted.
You spend so much time with this topic, and I can hear that you have your own pattern of what you need. And then you became the Jurypräsident last year, and you invented a framework for the jury. I never heard that before, that a Jurypräsident went in, okay, guys, here's our framework, how we work.
Yeah.
Why did you do that and why that was needed, maybe?
I did that because I've learned that from experience, from wisdom, from observation. And, I'm a curious person. I observe very intently, I absorb very intently, and I listen very intently to clients. And I felt like in a moment where we find ourselves this is a complex time, and we have to reclaim our worth, reclaim our value, and do that with some level of certainty. And the only way you can do that is if you have a clear point of view that cuts through the complexity and is delivered in a way that's simple to understand. And, we've had all this conversation about, well, is this a cost? Is this an investment? Is it about value generation, or is it about efficiencies and all of that? It was just time to kind of cut through all that bullshit and say, for something to be effective, you need to prove effectiveness across 4 metrics. And after having judged effectiveness competitions and papers for a large part of my career, before I became jury president at Cannes, I was the convener at the IPA. I've been jury president at Eurobest. I've chaired juries at the FE. So I've been part of that circuit for a very long time, not just judging, but also kind of being a young planner who was writing, winning sometimes, not winning many times, learning from all of that. And I realized that for something to be effective, it has to do 4 things. And that's the basis upon which I created that framework, which was very well received. I think people still use it.
Yeah, they still use it.
Talking about it. And I've had many opportunities to tell people about it.
Yeah, and you did this with the creative industry.
Yes.
But now we're in this time and age, as you already said, is that you really have to fight for the worth of the work at the client's table. So while you're running around here talking to people, how do you deliver that message to the clients that the creative idea, and especially that this is the festival where all of this is happening, is still important to get the effects at the end? Because what I heard when I was walking around on those beaches was always like, yeah, if I can measure it, if I have numbers, if I have proof up front, then I do the creative idea. Is that the right way to do it?
It's not such a binary thing, Francie, because I feel like people talk about it with, you have to understand what's at the bottom of this conversation, what's informing this conversation. Measurement is very much an important piece of the puzzle, but I don't think that it's the thing that you start with, because a lot of times you cannot confuse momentum and speed with meaning. Mm-hmm. Because measurement you can buy, you can buy clicks, you can buy attention, but that doesn't mean that it's going to have the impact over the long term and that people are going to really care about you. So it's really, really important to kind of understand that. And I said this on a panel the other day. Someone asked me, well, are we leading with facts or are we leading with feelings? Mm-hmm. And I said, when someone asks you that question, my response was, well, we're leading with facts for you and with the feelings that your competitors own. And that's really why it's so important to understand that we have to balance both. And every client wants work that has an impact on the market, but the only way to move a market successfully is to move people first.
Yeah.
So that's really important that we understand the cause and effect outcome between the two. It's not about setting them up as enemies. They're not in competition with each other. I think they mutually reinforce each other. There's a causal relationship between each other. It's a dance. So we have to understand that, when you move people successfully, when you occupy real estate in their heart and mind, when you're able to captivate them with something that they cannot stop thinking about, they cannot ignore, they cannot deny, you will have an impact on the market.
But how do you set the scene for that dance so that they feel comfortable and like to dance with each other and find a way through the jungle of ideas and on the other hand pressure to sell the product? How do you set that scene?
Because at the end of the day, if you want to sell something, you don't sell it in absentia. Unless you have something that you need to do absolutely nothing about, that you just put that product by media and put it out there and it sells by itself, you really need to work with some of the softer things about what's going to make people care for it.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times in certain categories, if you're an innovator and you have a lot of money, you can buy that attention because news and innovation will create momentum, like I said.
Yeah.
But the big temptation is to confuse momentum with meaning, because after a while that runs out. I call it the performance cliff. It's like a hockey stick. You'll go like that and then you'll peter out at the end of the day. So unless you have a product and you have such deep pockets that you can buy all the attention in the world, it's very rare that you'll meet someone who doesn't want to have a conversation about feelings and what is it that we need to do to make people care. because you can only discount your way to share for a while, because at a certain point you have to make people care enough that they actually want to pay for it, that they actually want to choose it, that they actually want to see themselves in the narrative of that brand. So those things are important. And then, there's enough research out there that also proves that the impact of brand on market cap has exponentially increased over the last few years. I think now it's more than 82 or 84%. Oh, wow. So that's a really important argument to not forget that brand drives business. And brand is nothing but memory, feelings, emotions, culture, beliefs, hope, fears. That's what a brand is. It's a sum up of all those things encapsulated. So you have to lead with that.
And then you have the brand sitting there and he sees this big topic, AI, and he thinks, ooh, I can just use an AI as my creative person in the room, and then the job is done. Is that the solution?
No, I think it makes me laugh because it's just so naive and it's just so myopic, because I can understand the excitement, but I think it's really important to understand what AI is good at. And it's also not right to sit here and throw shade at AI and be like, oh, AI is the enemy. It's not the enemy. AI is an enabler. It's a tool. It's something that we have to embrace. And it's going to force us to raise our game. Because here's the thing, AI is, I said this in another interview, that AI is very, very powerful, but it's not poetic in that sense. AI can generate, but AI cannot imagine. And that's the thing. Machines can generate, only humans can imagine. AI can automate, but humans create, and human creativity is what you need to curate. And brands aren't built on automation. They're built on curation. AI can code, but AI can't create taste. Like if you want to create a brand, you need to lead with taste. You don't build brands with code. And the other thing is, as a brand, do you want to, no client, I promise you, if you ask them, do you want to follow a template? Nobody wants. I have been in the business for 27 years. I have never, and I've worked in 6-7 different countries across the board. I have never seen a client come to me and say, Harj, I want to make work that looks like just like everybody else's. Can you make my work look like their work? It's never happened. So clients don't want to follow templates. Every brand has this aspiration of wanting to be self-referential, of creating the reference, of creating the template. AI is really good at scaling a template and actually following it, but it's not going to create it. Once you have it, yes, you can deploy it. So I always say, the enemy is not AI, the enemy is sameness. Because what AI is excellent at is being able to scale duplication at scale. And you need that sometimes. But what builds brands is differentiation at scale, not duplication at scale. So it's really important to understand, I think, what AI is good at and where and how to use it. But I believe this, and I'll say this over and over again, that AI is not here to challenge creativity, but you should be afraid of AI. Very, very afraid, because you know what it's going to do? It's going to expose mediocrity. So if that's your fear, be very, very afraid. And if that's your fear, turn that fear into a motivation to raise your game. And,
really well said.
Raise your game.
Yeah, really well said. I have to give you one because you told me that earlier, and I like how you referred to AI, is that I told you that I was impressed that almost each and every jury president this year on stage said, we first looked onto the work and we tried to figure out if that idea would have worked without AI. And you gave me a great example of what AI is. Could you maybe tell that story again? Because I loved it.
No, because I've said this I say this about technology. This isn't a new conversation. As you know, I've been coming here for so many years, and I have also had the good fortune of judging Cannes in many categories. I've judged creative effectiveness, I've judged creative strategy, I've judged sustainability, I've judged glass, and then I've really it's something. I have so much love for this festival of creativity and so much love for our industry. So I really do pay attention, just I care deeply. And I've been saying this about technology, and I think the same analogy applies. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be able to see it. Like, you remember when Swedish Number won the Grand Prix for best use of mobile. It's one of my favorite examples from a few years ago. The best thing about that is you just don't know where the mobile piece started and where it ended. You didn't know where the technology started, where the technology ended. It was just such a captivating idea unto itself. You remember that work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the whole point there was, I remember saying this in an interview, that, technology, it's like, it should be like salt. You should be, you want to taste it. You don't want to see it. It's going to be evident anyway. And I think that's the same thing about AI. Who cares? That's not the conversation we should be having. Is the work good? Is it captivating? Is the idea something that you cannot ignore? Is it built on something that is impossible to deny?
Yeah.
Does it show up in the world in a way that's impossible to ignore? So, and is it something that's impossible to forget? Then if it's doing that, I don't care. I mean, then the AI, it's there or not there, you shouldn't, it's like salt. You will in the good work, it's probably there. It's seasoned with it in all the right places.
Yeah.
But you don't want to see it.
Yeah, and you don't want to taste only salt.
Yeah, you don't. I mean,
Yeah.
can you eat something that tastes?
No, not
that's the
at
point,
all.
So you want it just about the right
Yeah.
amount,
Yeah.
so you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's the same way for me with work. You want just the right amount of seasoning so you can actually enjoy the work. So it's a feast for the senses.
Yeah.
And for the and it's captivating in the way it's meant to be.
Okay, then let's go to the work, what we have seen all through the week.
Yeah.
Last year, you said the totem in your category was it has to be Heinz.
Yeah.
So, what was your personal totem work this year here in the festival?
Oh my God. I was obviously biased last year because I was jury president. We choose a Grand Prix. Heinz was the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So I did think that that's a really good example, and it's totemic in that way. There's just so much good work this time, because for me, this year, the thing that, and it's just an honest thing, like I was speaking to someone early this morning. For me this year, what has drawn me to work, there's so much good work in the Palais, right? It's joy. It's joy that's making me feel positively about this industry and about the work and about the craft. And so when I see that creative problem solving manifested and delivered and deployed with joy, that's where I'm seeing amazing work. So let's see. I love, for example, I love the work. Were you at the award show yesterday?
Yes.
So I love the creative business transformation work from India on that Lucky Yatra, which was,
the train.
how brilliant is that?
Yeah.
And what a joyful way to solve such a serious problem.
Yeah.
People, 41% people not buying train tickets, meanwhile spending billions of dollars on lottery tickets, and you just print a lottery ticket on the train ticket and you solve a problem like that.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful work. I love the Twix. 2 is better than 1 work, which is, it's the hijacking the Super Bowl, where people pay millions and millions of dollars to put their work on it, and everyone's staring at the second screen and not watching the ads on the TV during the ad break. And then it's so rooted in a product truth. How amazing is that? The other really joyful genius work for me this year, I know it's a bit absurd, but I just love Lynx. Catnip.
Oh,
remember that work?
yeah.
How brilliant is that? Simple insight, beautiful, joyful, real problem solving. It's about the catnip and Lynx. That work, I love what A6 did. We saw that work yesterday with the desk breaks.
Yeah.
So I've seen so much, and also, I mean, Heinz just constantly knocks it out of the park, right? Seen the work where I don't know any other brand right now that can actually make work where they don't even mention their brand, and it's not even visible, and you still know attributed 100% to that. That's the level of confidence, iconicity that they've had through consistently showing up in the way they have and not veering away from what they mean.
Yeah.
That is brilliant work, and it will always be a reference for me.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously not going to talk about McCann work because, of course, it's leading edge and best in class, but it's an opportunity for us to talk about work from other networks. And this is some of the work I've seen this year, which is just, it's made me happy and made me feel really good. I love the Lidl work about Lidlify your things. How brilliant is that?
Yeah, that was
Just
amazing.
creative e-commerce.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's just so much
And
good
there's
work.
AI sold in there.
Yes. it's
Yeah.
just the right amount.
Yeah.
Do you care how much it is and
No.
where it is? You're just captivated by the
Yeah.
work. You
Yeah.
you actually want that bicycle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, no,
Bring it to me.
I don't own a single pair of Crocs, but if I found those,
Yeah.
maybe I just might.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
It is, I know
it really
definitely
does
what
do
you
that
mean.
to
I know
you.
what
Yeah.
you mean,
So so it's just for me, it's just joy and partnerships, because all this work is also has partnerships embedded in it. It
Yeah.
recognizes that it's a team sport, that
Yeah.
creativity is a team sport.
Yeah, I think
So-
team was also a lot what we saw here. Great teamwork in here, in the work. I also like the traditional way of doing advertising. So what I liked is that you had great pictures, that you said, Heinz, only one picture and you knew it was the brand.
Yes.
Someone was dipping
Yes.
their fries in there and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. Great, amazing. Stella Artois, just
Yes.
enjoying the moment, having the glass obviously with the logo on it. So really simple one.
Yes.
And also some great artwork. I like the donkey who
Yes.
was eating the phone.
Yes, amazing. See, there's all that. And then at the same time, there's also really moving work.
Yeah.
Really simple, moving work.
Yeah.
Like, I was so moved by what AXA did in France.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
right.
3 words.
3 words.
Yeah.
I mean, just how amazing is that?
Yeah.
And you know what? It's real genius for me, because for me, creative genius lies at the intersection of 2 feelings.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you see something and you go like, I could have come up with that. And then at the same time, your brain goes, but why didn't I come up with that?
Yeah.
At the intersection of those 2 is where genius lives. And that's the kind of work that makes you go, wow,
And
why has no one thought about it so far?
And I think AXA is also what you earlier said, the great combination of having a great idea and a client brave enough to do it all the way.
All the way,
They
yes.
included it in all the contracts.
Yes.
That's just amazing.
And in line with what their brand needs.
Yeah.
Meaning is so
Yeah.
key, you know,
Yeah.
it's about having a truth at the heart of
Yeah.
the brand.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing I think, to make great work, you have to be so sure and so clear about what is the truth at the heart of your brand. But it's not one thing to have something, but also ask yourself, is this a truth that people actually want to go and advocate for and argue for?
Yeah.
That AXA truth is a truth that you want to go out there and fight for.
Yeah.
You want to fight for that truth.
Yeah.
And that's why it's captivating. You know?
I hope work like this is also, while being here, other countries are seeing it and just thinking, easy,
That's
do it as
exactly
well.
what I was thinking yesterday during the award show.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Lucky Yatra. I was like, this is not a problem just in India.
Yeah.
This is a problem
Yeah.
in many parts of the world.
Yeah.
And what a great reference.
Yeah.
For more. So this is where, you know, I my faith and love in our industry is rejuvenated and restored during this week, because I go like, how amazing.
Yeah.
You know, that we can do this kind of work and show a way to solving some of these big issues in the world. And that's why I believe, you know, creativity is really the most powerful resource in the world. And this is a week for us to kind of like just really like see it, experience it, believe it,
Yeah.
and energize ourselves from it.
I have 2 last questions. We talked before this week, and we both were discussing what is going on with AI and everything in our industry. And you said to me the sentence, why do we behave like cost centers? Mm-hmm. After being here, experiencing the whole world coming together, are you still thinking that we behave like cost centers, or has that shifted a bit after this?
No, I think it's a temptation. It's a tendency, so many times it's a response to something, because it is a competitive business. At the end of the day, it is a business.
Yeah.
And when I say this idea of cost center mentality, it's about how you show up.
Yeah.
Because it's a response. You know, when you have very procurement-led conversations, there are very efficiency-based conversations, very cost-based conversations. And if you start thinking of yourself as, how can we deliver this very efficiently?
Yeah.
You know, you will.
Yeah.
I really believe this. What's true in life is true in advertising. You are a sum total of the way you think that ends up impacting the way you speak, and that ends up impacting the way you behave, and that ends up defining who you are as a human being.
Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
And this is true of brands, and this is true of the industry as well. the minute we start thinking like, oh, how should we kind of like deliver this with the maximum efficiency? How do we deliver this in a way that's cost effective? We're going to start talking about, oh, we can discount this.
Yeah.
We can offer this as a bonus.
Yeah.
We can pad our proposal with these cost efficiencies.
Yeah.
That's one conversation. And then that shows up in the way we end up acting sometimes and behaving. So it's really important that right at the get-go, we don't lose sight of the fact of what's the business we're in. This is about value creation.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So if we always have that in the back of our heads and we're wired like that, we lead with that intention that we're here to build and create value.
Yeah.
We're here to set the foundation for growth. Then the conversations and behaviors that come out of that thinking are very different. It's when you lose sight of that, when you get distracted, then things are different. So that's the point here. So, it's if anything, we have to just reaffirm what business we're in and not be distracted by all this noise.
Last question. I'm a really lucky person to meet all through the week such amazing person out of the industry. And you are one of those because as you said, you have worked almost everywhere on this planet. You met so many people, so many creatives, so many brands, so many people buying the products.
Yeah.
What still keeps you motivated to work in this industry?
I just love it. I just love what we do. I really do believe that creativity has more power to change the world than governments do. And that's what I'm addicted to that. I'm addicted to progress. I am absolutely in love with potential. And I am not defeated by difficulty. And I love to be part of something that has the capacity to change how people think. And that for me is just so meaningful. And it's an industry that allows us to do that on a daily basis. And it allows us to do it as much as we want to.
Yeah.
So there are no limits. Nobody's telling you can only be this creative.
Yeah.
So, and there are opportunities to do that through so many different categories, across so many different cultures.
Yeah.
So that's also why I just love being in this industry, because you get to work with so many different clients, people all over the world, and be in places like this where you meet people from all over the world and see how people are doing this. And it keeps you energized. I think I would, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't part of making something that has the capacity to change how people think. I don't know what else I would do. It's the only thing that makes me feel like myself.
Thank you, Harjot, for being yourself.
Thank you so much. It's always so nice to talk to you.
It is really great. I hope to see you soon again.
Yes, in Germany.
Yes.
I'll come back.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harjot.
Thank you.
Moritz?
Franzi.
Auf genau dieser Bühne, hier, auf dieser Terrasse, habe ich Anfang der Woche mit Simon Cook über das Festival gesprochen. Da waren wir schon alle sehr aufgeregt, was uns irgendwie erwartet und was irgendwie kommt und welche Awards und überhaupt und hast du nicht gesehen. Und jetzt gerade eben noch habe ich hier mit Harjot gesprochen, Harjot Singh. Und wir haben auch über die Effektivität von Kreativität gesprochen. Wenn du beides miteinander vereinst, die Erwartungshaltung auf das Festival, was Simon gesagt hat, und die Effektivität, die jetzt Harjot reingespürt hat, wie effektiv war dieses Festival für dich als Repräsentant?
Das ist eine verdammt gute Frage. Ich glaube, da gibt es ganz verschiedene Antworten drauf. Und ich glaube, wenn man jetzt mal die einfachste nehmen würde, die Anzahl der Löwen, würde man sagen, vielleicht war das jetzt irgendwie nicht das beste Jahr, was wir hatten. Ich glaube, es gibt auch noch eine ganz andere Ebene darunter. Und das ist, glaube ich, die, wo es um die Ideen geht, um den Austausch geht. Und da muss ich sagen, war das eine fantastische Woche. Und ich glaube, wir hatten selten so viele Menschen aus Deutschland hier, die zum ersten Mal hier waren. Und im Laufe der Woche hat man natürlich auch viele Gespräche geführt. Und ich habe selten so oft gehört, ich habe ein ganz neues Bild von Cannes bekommen. Das ist ja wirklich wertvoll, hier zu sein, weil es einfach eine ganz andere Ebene von Austausch ist, von Insights. auch viel tiefer gehende Gespräche als bei vielen, vielen anderen Events. Also ich glaube, wenn man es auf der Ebene betrachtet, würde ich sagen, war die Woche ein absoluter Erfolg. Da kann man natürlich jetzt nicht so eine schöne Zahl hinterschreiben, wie jetzt irgendwie bei den Löwen, wo wir bei um die 30 sind, was natürlich schon signifikant weniger ist als letztes Jahr.
Ja, aber mal ganz ehrlich und Butter bei den Fische. Ne? Wir dürfen das ja als Repräsentant, wir lesen natürlich auch, was in der Presse steht. Und so ein bisschen ist uns schon der Kamm hochgegangen, weil, alter Scholli, 3% gewinnen überhaupt nur einen Löwen, 0,5% überhaupt nur einen Grand Prix. Und davon bringen wir auch wieder einen mit nach Hause. Also, I mean, hello,
also es war ein
oder?
fulminanter Start in die Woche.
Ja.
So, das ist schon, und ich glaube, da sieht man eben auch, wir hatten eine ganz, ganz starke Kampagne, ich glaube, das kann man ja auch so sagen, die auch sozusagen unser Kanye dann doch vielleicht auch auf der Ebene gerettet hat. Und ich finde, es zeigt aber eben auch, es gibt diese Kampagnen. Und vielleicht waren es dieses Jahr ein bisschen weniger als letztes Jahr, aber du hattest ja auch ein Gespräch mit PJ Pereira und da muss ich so dran denken, weil der auch so irgendwie so schön meinte, naja, es gibt gute Jahre, es gibt schlechte Jahre. Am Ende ist nächste Woche Montag und wir starten alle wieder mit 0 Löwen ins Jahr rein. Und ich glaube, was man auf jeden Fall mitnehmen kann aus dieser Woche ist, wir können Löwen gewinnen. Es gibt auch diese mutigen Kampagnen, wo man sagt, das ist eigentlich unmöglich, das so zu machen. Ich meine, Pricepacks ist ein wunderbares Beispiel dafür, wenn sich Agentur und Kunde zusammentun und sich was trauen. Und ich finde, das Gespräch, was du gestern mit Christoph Ewerker geführt hast, ist also eine ganz, ganz dringende Schauempfehlung an der Stelle bei uns in der Mediathek. Weil ich glaube, das Gespräch offenbart ganz viel darüber, was es braucht, um Löwen zu gewinnen, um auch langfristig erfolgreich zu sein. Und ich finde, das ist beruhigend zu wissen, dass es diese Menschen gibt und freue mich sehr, dass wir diesen Menschen auch so ein bisschen diese Bühne geben konnten, dass sie auch mal erzählen können, was ist denn die Story dahinter, was waren die Herausforderungen, was musste eigentlich gerade im Falle von Penny alles zusammenkommen, damit man eben diese wunderbare Kampagne hat. Und ich finde, auch im Internationalen, wenn wir mit anderen Repräsentanten sprechen, jeder kennt diese Kampagne und alle sagen, krass, dass ihr das gemacht habt. Und ich finde, da steckt noch ganz viel mehr drin.
Ja, was ich aber krass finde ist, und jetzt darf ich ja endlich mal nicht nur Interviewfragen stellen, sondern mal ein bisschen meine Meinung erzählen,
ich bitte darum.
Dass ich super dankbar bin, dass ihr bei Welche, dem Content-Team, Robert und mir diese Chance gebt, dass wir sagen dürfen, ey, wisst ihr was, wir wollen nicht unbedingt immer nur aus der ersten Reihe greifen, sondern wir wollen mal ein Format machen mit den Young Lions. Und dann triffst du auf diese energetischen Young Lions, wo du bei Penny Pricepacks hast, die auch noch gestern auf der Bühne stehen und einen goldenen Löwen mit ihrer Agentur entgegennehmen und du diese Motivation in den Gesichtern siehst. Dann sagst du, ey, pass auf, wenn ihr sagt, ihr wollt was zum Brasilien Country of the Year machen, dann dürft ihr das und dann sprecht die Leute und dann kommen wir mit so krassen Leuten wie Ricardo Wolf und PJ Pereira unter anderem ins Gespräch und das macht einem nochmal eine andere Welt auf. Und dann sagen wir, gut, Penny, wollen wir drüber reden, dann nehmen wir aber halt mal den Christoph und wir geben dem eine Stimme und dann haben wir so ein Momentum. Und das muss ich wirklich sagen, was ich dieses Jahr festgestellt habe, ist, dass ich sehr, sehr dankbar dafür bin, dass die Speaker, die wir haben, auch mit Bier und Wurst, die jetzt einen Podcast mit uns machen wollen, dass die uns als Welche so weit vertrauen, dass die auch ein Stück weit aufmachen, die Geschichten erzählen und was ja viele fragen, ja, warum macht ihr das? Ihr seid doch der Repräsentant Welche, warum macht ihr das? Und warum wir es machen, ist ja genau das, was du gesagt hast. Wir wollen die Leute ermutigen, mit den Geschichten, die wir von hier nach Deutschland erzählen, solche Kampagnen auch machen zu wollen. Harjot hat es gerade gesagt, auch wirklich vielleicht auch mal politisch was zu verändern, sich zu trauen. Und dass die sich so aufgemacht haben und so offen und so ehrlich und so ohne Filter uns davon erzählt haben, das hat mich ganz unheimlich mitgenommen, stolz gemacht dieses Jahr, finde ich.
Das vollkommen zu Recht. Also ich glaube, und es ist ja auch ein schönes Zeichen. Wir haben vor 4 Jahren damit angefangen, wo wir gesagt haben, lass uns doch mal auch die Leute irgendwie nochmal hinter den Kampagnen hervorlocken und auch besser verstehen, was ist es denn eigentlich? Also wenn man am Ende sozusagen den Case-Film sieht, das vereinfacht ja diesen Prozess so wahnsinnig stark. Und zu verstehen, welche Menschen, was betreibt die an. Und ich glaube, da haben wir uns auch über die letzten Jahre eine ganz gute Reputation aufgebaut, dass wir auch also wirklich ehrlich interessiert sind. Und ich glaube, dass das für viele einfach auch Wertschätzung ist, aber eben auch die Möglichkeit ist, mal tiefer einzusteigen und zu verstehen, wo diese Kampagnen herkommen. Und auf der anderen Seite haben wir Kunden, Marken, die wir mit hier hinbringen, die auch zum ersten Mal verstehen, was da eigentlich alles hintersteckt und was für Möglichkeiten es eben auch gibt. Und dass es sich lohnt, sich auch mit der Agentur, ich sag mal im positiven Sinne, auch zu reiben und weiterzuentwickeln. Wir hatten ja auch Kerstin und Guido Heffels auch irgendwie mit dabei diese Woche. Ja,
Gott,
25,
die Woche ist schon so lang,
ein Vierteljahrhundert für Hornbach gearbeitet.
Ja.
Und auch die sagen, natürlich gab es viele gute Momente, es gab auch viele schwierige Momente, aber man rauft sich immer wieder zusammen und am Ende schafft man eigentlich eine neue Ebene an Qualität für ein Ne, also was man sonst gar nicht, was man sonst sehr, sehr selten sieht, diese langen Beziehungen, wo viel Vertrauen drin steckt, wo aber eben auch viel Zeit, viel Gelegenheit für, lass uns nochmal weiterdenken und lass uns gegenseitig challengen. Und ich freue mich sehr, dass wir das halt eben auch immer mehr Marken aus Deutschland oder Markenverantwortlichen ja so ein bisschen zugänglich machen können über diese Woche. Und da warten jetzt auch viele dabei, die gesagt haben, ach, krass, so habe ich Cannes noch gar nicht gesehen. Hier kann man ja richtig was lernen. Und ich glaube, das ist so diese Kombination aus diesen beiden Bausteinen, die am Ende ja uns auch helfen, für mehr Kreativität und mehr Mut in der Kommunikation in Deutschland zu werben.
Naja, und vor einigen Jahren hat dann der Moritz gesagt, ey, Cannes ist nur einmal im Jahr, aber who cares? Wir bringen Cannes ab nach Hamburg. Und darum, ihr Lieben, wenn ihr jetzt neidisch seid und sagt, warum war ich da eigentlich dieses Jahr nicht? 16.10. in Hamburg. Die It Matters Konferenz. Ehrliche, offene Gespräche, Diskussionen. Kommt vorbei und schaut euch das an, oder?
Auf jeden Fall. Und sonst kommt nächstes Jahr mit nach Cannes.
Oder beides.
Beides.
Danke, Moritz, für die Woche.
Vielen lieben Dank, Franzi, für die Woche. Vielen lieben Dank für die großartigen Gespräche. Und ich freue mich auf Oktober.
Ich mich auch. Und ey, by the way, danke an unser Team. Klappen,
Vielen lieben Dank.
Das war's.